Now, I request Dr. Narasimha Reddy sir to speak on his topic. I will introduce Dr. Narasimha Reddy sir. Dr. Narasimha Reddy is a public policy analyst, public policy expert and consultant, and he is a prominent figure in the field of public policy. And he is also a student of political science, now the expert of political science and the democratic the campaigns that he has been leading in the country. And he was a board member of IFOAM Asia, member of a Cotton Advisory Board Committee, and he is also a member of Advisory Council of a Textile Exchange, a global non-profit. He has contributed immensely to the public discourse and public challenges, and he has also provided policy insights for electricity, seed, rice, cotton, sugarcane, sericulture, handloom, textiles, land, water, and other related areas. And immensely in different fields, he has provided the policy related inputs and his contributions. And we are very happy to have him here. He has also supported and built many campaigns and advocacy programs to protect the interest of the people and the environment. So I'm very happy that he has joined us to provide his insights on threats to democracy in this the present era that we are undergoing. I invite warmly Dr. Narasimha Reddy Danti sir to share his views.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmanan. I think we have lost some time in my slot. Anyway, I think we had a very good base prepared by Professor Purushottam Reddy, who has been teaching me for almost 35 years. I think he mentioned clearly what Dr. Jaipal Reddy mentioned, that wrote that today you can't find ideologies. I think it is true. Normally we associate political parties with a particular ideology. I mean, that was there before. And each of the political parties used to talk about, they emerged based on a certain ideology. But today I don't see that ideological base in any political party. So, which is very confusing, and because there is no clarity on what they are talking, what is the motive behind that. So, why I am saying all this is when I am discussing threats to democracy, usually we slot who is doing what and try to see where I am leading to. I am talking about democracy, and I'll deal mostly with public policy, not at the wider arc of democracy, which was enunciated by Professor Purushottam Reddy. So here we are just looking at what democracy means in terms of public policy making. Participation. I think public participation in policy making has been flagged before and now as well. Participatory democracy is all about it, and then prior consent. So prior information and then consent is also a very important factor. Consultation, access to information, and importantly, representation. Representation in parliament, legislature, but also in policy making. I think these are the important factors, and my discussion will be surrounding these factors in public policy making. Now we are seeing a lot of distortions to these democratic principles coming from different areas. One, trade. If you look at pre-1995 trade discussions, GATT related discussions, and then the emergence of World Trade Organization, and subsequent discussions for agreement on various trade agreements, there is this democratic space constriction we could see. So the countries which are mostly suppliers, I think their democracy eroded a lot, and ultimately, even the promoters of international trade, especially America, Europe, all the developing countries, now they have abandoned that platform itself. And technology, of course, we are talking of different technologies, and technology is invariably used to, overcome these factors which are important for democracy. It is almost used as a screen, smoke screen, to, distort the democracy. And then investment. If you today, when you talk, పెట్టుబడి or investment, పెట్టుబడి in Telugu, I think investment has become a ruling policy, because we openly invite investment, but not looking at the principles of democracy which are required. And supply chains, as global supply chains have been established in the last 15, 20 years, these supply chains had a very great negative influence on the democratic processes. I think processes are very, very important. Even UN Secretary General today, in a note on International Day of Democracy, mentioned processes are always important, and most of the supply chains, cut short those processes and try to look at the only profit. And ultimately, in general, consumerism has been a major threat to democracy everywhere. So, all in all, not only these, what we are seeing is a straight line equation between, a straight line equation of profit motive, what I get out of it, and that has, blown up from an individual, kind of thinking to a global systemic level. I think that's a major issue which we are looking at. Methods of distortion. We have seen policy reports being prepared by private actors. This I'm talking about not only in India, and various, even European Union we are seeing, and even in America, where democracy is supposed to be at very high level. Data access becomes restricted. So that we are seeing in India and even at the state level. So only people with a profit motive get that data access. Representation on committees. Nowadays, you see a lot of committees are appointed, but the representation is on those committees is restricted. So not all stakeholder groups of a particular public policy find representation in that. You will find mostly the business class or the production, major production groups representation. And then, when we're talking of participation in public policy, earlier policies, acts or notifications, they used to get a wider dissemination, but now only on particular domains these are hidden, and very few people have that open access unless they go and look out for it. And then there is no outward communication on such a draft policy. So a draft policy is loaded on a website, which usually not visited by anyone, and even that uploading is not communicated through a press release or through media. So ultimately, either you have to do nosing around, otherwise you may not have access at all. Language has been flagged for long. So central government, union government, language is only English and Hindi, though we consider many other languages as national languages. and India is a diverse speaking country. Commenting period, again, is very short, usually 30 days, 15 days, 20 days. And, getting a wider commenting period itself becomes a campaign. Then public hearings are far and few, and even if you respond, where, overcoming all these barriers, you don't get any response on the feed-in. So you might have done a lot of exercise in feeding your opinion or mobilizing opinion, but then there will be silence on that, and it may not be considered at all. And importantly, I think legislatures are kept outside this discussion, which, if we have seen in 1995 when India signed the WTO agreement, WTO agreement was not given to the Indian Parliament, though Parliament ratified that agreement. Since then, we are seeing many aspects of policy kept outside. So, export policy, defense policy, many other policies are still outside legislation. Now, I'll just give you a few examples. Some are good and some and many are bad. This is a comparative perspective. Many of you might know around 2008-9, we had this discussion on BT brinjal, whether we should allow genetically modified crop BT brinjal. I think at that time, Jairam Ramesh took a wise decision in enabling public hearing all over India, and for a 4 month period, I think 120 days, all over India, there were a lot of discussions, and even scientific community was asked to feed in. And ultimately, there was an overwhelming rejection of BT brinjal. I think this should go as a positive example whenever we are trying to bring a new technology, because the argument by this technology promoters is technology is always good and technology is required, but then it has to, the decision has to be taken by the people. So I think when technology, science, which look like more purely technical and require specialist knowledge, even their public consultations are required, and BT Brinjal established that need. And pesticide management bill, that was hanging since 2008, but at least in the last 2 years, it was put on the public domain, and there was some discussion. And right now, it is in Parliament. Probably today or tomorrow, it will be taken up for passing in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. But still, though there are problems with the bill, I think the process was at least more participatory. Now, a decreasing level of goodness we can see is the GST. GST, there was a lot of discussion among state governments and union government, but public participation was very low in that. And ultimately, we are seeing GST. GST promised a single national tax, but now there are four different kinds of taxes, and even taxing, is a matter of controversy. And ultimately, Parliament has no clue of what is happening with the GST, because GST Council is autonomous, and I don't think Parliament has yet reviewed the decisions of GST. Now, recent environment impact assessment notification 2020, again, of course, it was put up on the website, and commenting period increased from 45 days to 90 days. I think that is, in process terms, it is fine, but ultimately now it is still in the red, because whether 2 lakh, I think 20 lakh comments have been, people have commented, we are not sure how much of that feedback will be taken in. Now, currently, the big discussion is on data protection. Citizens' data, I think it is being taken through various forms, right from Aadhaar card, and now there is a data privacy, personal data protection bill. I think between all these measures, people are aware because the privacy concerns are being raised, but government has not yet responded on that. And when we see demonetization has been brought in basically to digitize the economy, I think again public participation consultations have been very low there. So data concerns are still there, and we are not sure how this will be taken. But yet, the bill has been put up, and then Niti Aayog has recently put out a discussion paper. So there is at some level some discussion, but I think we need to deepen the process behind that. Trade agreements, though the people have been commenting, but again, it has not deepened to the extent our democracy demands. Now, negatives, as I mentioned, Aadhaar is completely imposed kind of policy. BT cotton seeds, which were brought in 2003, again, they came in without any discussion, consultation, and acceptance. And uh, farmers are facing a lot of problems. Suicides are happening. The cost has increased, and the contamination of the genetic material is continuous, and now we are seeing illegal HTPT cotton seeds are coming. So the whole seed sector has become a mess because of this process of imposing a decision between the one committee of a few scientists or technocrats sitting and deciding. So that's where you can see the comparison between BT brinjal and BT cotton seeds. So India being a major agricultural country, all agricultural decisions, I think, though they have to be through participatory process. But if you see the recent ordinances, three ordinances, one amendment to Essential Commodities Act, and two Contract Farming Act and the Trade Facilitation Act, all these three together try to centralize the entire process of decision making. In fact, coming to that, in recent, just 1 or 2 years and recent months, we are seeing more in union government centralizing many state subjects like electricity, water, and then agriculture, and even in data protection, environmental protection. I think in all these areas there are elements of centralization, and I think the problem does not lie only with the union government. I think even state government, the rogue behavior by some state governments headed by local regional political parties, that has pushed union government to probably to centralize. But this the overall anti-federalism trend, I think that is again a cause of concern on this day. Demonetization, of course, we know it was suddenly imposed, and ultimately the people who were at loss were the common people, and not the black economy merchants or holders of cash. Seed bill, this has been hanging since 2004. Now it's almost 18, 17 years. Farmers are facing lots of problems, but the bill has not yet come, only because governments have not enabled a public participatory process behind that bill. Recently, just during COVID, we have seen abolition of All India Handloom Board and All India Powerloom Board, All India Handicrafts Board, a number of bodies, statutory bodies which were established to help at least 10 to 15 crore artisan population have been abolished just by a notification without any prior consultation or notification. I think these are again a cause of concern, and this abolition, I know the basic premise given is to save money because union government is facing shortage of funds. But then these bodies have been interlocutory bodies and they are participatory platforms. And just because the expenditure is hardly in lakhs, they have been removed. I think that's motive behind that. So primarily, we are looking at threats to democracy in the various small steps. I think that is very serious concern. What is needed is, I think, we require parliamentary oversight, especially when you just to mention irrigation projects, water allocation, national water policy. I think these are not happening under the parliament. And in the past, if you look at agriculture department funds, 12,000 crores to the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh. It was given, and that money went into private accounts of the officials. And ultimately, states give only utilization certificate. So there are many processes which do not come under audit or oversight of the parliament or legislature. In fact, it should have been, we should have included many of them, but now we are seeing many of them who are going outside the frame of that parliamentary oversight. So even though we have several parliamentary standing committees, their mandate has become restricted and they do only routine oversight. Of course, there are some committee reports which are very good and which are path breaking, but I think we need to strengthen this parliamentary oversight, and we need to look at how to depoliticize statutory institutions, enable more transparent appointments, and avoiding conflict of interest whenever people are appointed on these statutory regulatory institutions like Food Safety Standards Authority of India, Electricity Regulatory Commission, even Election Commission of India. I think all these statutory institutions are now a cause of concern, including Central Information Commission. So I think we need to think how to depoliticize these institutions and restore their integrity and so that people can trust them. And we need restoration of federal systems and platforms like the National Development Council. In the last few years, we have not seen any meeting by National Development Council. I think those kind of platforms need to be revived and strengthened. Instead of GST Council, I think GST should have been part of National Development Council. And then periodical public review of institutions, whatever that might be. I think there has to be a review, public review, and audit systems have to be more encompassing. And ultimately, like what Gandhi has been saying, I know Gandhian thought, where Panchayat Raj institutions have to be strengthened. And ultimately, I think we need a wider and wider representation at various levels, and not only committees, even in the legislatures. You can see increasingly we are seeing representation only by the rich people, but not coming from different sections of the people. So I think this representation, how to enable a wider representation, I think we have to think about it and see, so that if we do this, only our democracy can be saved. Otherwise, we have seen in the last 3 months during COVID how Epidemic Act has been misused by certain state governments in filing cases against people who are voicing concerns about the healthcare systems, which have been very problematic. So I think these anti-democratic trends need to be countered, and we need to think of innovative ways on how we can counter these trends. So I'll stop it here, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Wonderful. I really thank you, sir, for sharing your very important views about the trends that now going on in the country. One of the first points that you have raised is that the policy being promoted. It's not usually, we used to get inputs from different stakeholders, and the corporates are one of the peoples, they used to give the inputs. But nowadays, I see personally, I have also seen some of the policies, being mooted and prepared by the corporates themselves to suit their own needs. And it is really a disturbing trend. There is no problem if they come out with a draft. That's not an issue at all, if it is all inclusive of taking care of all the people's interest. So this is how the democracy is now shaping. And you have also very well connected with the different examples with the comparative view, where what are the good trends, what are the bad trends went on. It's really giving a very sharp insight into the happenings. So thank you very much. I think we need to be very careful and aware of the the developments happening, and it is only with the help of our participation and our vocal presence and creating public opinion that we'll be able to overcome these difficulties. So thank you very much for providing such a important input, sir.